Well, I don't know what the scenario is with that. I might actually have to ask John Rentoul, chief political commentator at The Independent. John, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Now, I don't know if you know the answer to this, because I don't. If he is no longer Archbishop of Canterbury, is he still in some way a bishop, and is he still entitled to be in the House of Lords? It doesn't seem right that he is.
No, he isn't, unless he's given a life peerage, which I think most former archbishops would be given.
Right. But in his case, it could be a bit controversial for Starmer, who didn't seem to be that supportive of him yesterday. No,
well, yes, it was when the Prime Minister withdrew his support that his position became untenable. It was only a few hours after that the resignation came. I'm afraid I have to report there was a tasteless sweepstake in the press gallery of the House of Commons about the timing of
well, you don't have to tell me who won, but did you get anywhere close to 2 o'clock? I said yesterday he's got to be gone before Christmas. I had no idea it was going to be that quick.
Yeah, we had a range of 2 o'clock actually. One of my colleagues had 2 o'clock. To Friday. Right. It's quite a limited range of options.
Yes. No, I mean, it's a very swift exit, I have to say. But, yeah, fascinating to see whether he ends up leaving the House of Lords as well. Let's talk about Keir Starmer, though, because he's on his way back, or probably is now back from Baku in Azerbaijan. You wrote a piece which I couldn't read because it was behind a paywall, unfortunately.
Well, you could have paid, Mike.
Well, I could have done, but I feel your website was any good.
That's how journalism works, you see. People pay.
Well, you don't have to pay for this. Look at the amazing entertainment and news value you get from Talk without having to pay for it. It's free.
That's true. Well, some of the Independent's content is free, but the really good stuff is behind a paywall because that's how journalism works.
Well, it does somehow. Some journalism works, yeah. Will MPs support the assisted dying bill is one of the tweets. But no, the one that I wanted to talk about is off on another foreign trip, Prime Minister. Isn't it time to come home and stay put? He seems to have been away for an awful lot of time, and he didn't really need to go to Baku, did he?
Well, no, because a lot of other leaders didn't.
No.
Macron wasn't there, Schultz, Biden.
Well, he was in good company, wasn't he? Because the Taliban turned up.
Yeah, exactly. That was a bit embarrassing.
I mean, really, seriously. I mean, what an absolute nightmare. But, you know, he went out there, he made this ridiculous speech about 81% reduction in carbon emissions, which nobody believes he can do, and nobody even knows what it means anyway.
No.
And does he not? And why is he spending so much time abroad?
Well, it's curious because he's Prime Minister, Mike. I mean, obviously, Prime Ministers do have to spend a certain amount of time abroad.
Yeah, up to a point.
But what's interesting? I mean, I didn't write the headline on my article. I have to say, in a sort of cowardly way, because actually my article was much more about the fact that Keir Starmer seems to be embarrassed about the fact that he's away so often. Because actually, on the plane to Baku, he was asked by journalists, you know, aren't you out of the country too often? Right. And he said, I'm totally focused on the priorities of the voters back home. And he listed them as growth and borders, policing the borders. Right. He didn't mention the green stuff.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
He was actually going to a climate conference, and that wasn't one of his priorities. So he was in a very awkward position.
Well, he's now sort of perfected the art of lying to such an extent. He's lying while he's actually doing it, where he used to just lie about things that he had done. He's now lying in real time. You know, so
Mike. Yes. You know my view, Mike. I don't agree with the L word in politics.
Well,
he was.
Well, I do because. No, he's
straddling two different views. Because once he got to Baku, he started spouting all this green stuff, as if he believed it. You're quite right.
Yeah, and nobody believes that he believes it. I don't believe that he believes it. Do you?
Well, I'm not sure if his heart is really in it, but Ed Miliband believes in it, and Ed Miliband sort of owns that part of Keir Starmer. But there's the other part of Keir Starmer on the flight going on about how his two priorities are growth and immigration.
Well, talking of lying, then let's move on to Ed Miliband, because he was at pains yesterday to try and explain this £300 saving that he keeps mentioning, which he mentioned before the election.
He doesn't keep mentioning it anymore. They mentioned it before the election, but hasn't been mentioned. Well,
he has mentioned it because he mentioned it yesterday on Good Morning Britain. So have a look at this.
We set that out for 2030. It was an independent set of modelling that said that bills could go down by up to £300. And what's important, Susanna, is that the report I referred to last week from the energy system operator confirms that not only is our target achievable, but it will lead to lower costs of electricity.
So in 6 years' time, our bills will go down by £300. How much are they going to have gone up by that point?
It's a pretty good question. He didn't have an answer for that. I'm sorry. So we've now gone from £300 is the saving that we will bring you, the inference being we'll bring you that this Christmas, right? And then sort of they decided, well, actually, no, it's not really £300. And even Pat McFadden was at pains to kind of try and explain it away, saying, well, you know, it might be over the course of the next 5 years, but it's only it's a possibility. And then it became, oh, actually, there's no truth to this at all. Now he's saying it will be it's based on modelling, and it will be £300 that you save in 6 years' time. I mean, it's a nonsense, isn't it? It's all rubbish.
No, I'm afraid it is. It's based on one particular model from one particular outfit, which is Ed
Miliband's outfit, right?
Well, no, it's an independent outfit, but you know, I mean, these are matters of opinion, and I heard very clearly what Ed Miliband just said just there. It could save up to £300 in 2030.
Right.
And when Susanna Reid asked him how much it's going to go up in the meantime, he didn't have an answer.
No.
And that told you all you need to know.
Exactly. And so that's where I'm afraid we will always have to differ, because in my view, that is straight out lying. You're making out that something is true, which isn't true. And that to me is a lie.
No, I'm just my objection is to the use of the L word, but I could completely agree that Ed Miliband's policy is unworkable and unrealistic.
Yeah.
And if Keir Starmer has got any seriousness of purpose about winning the next election, he would be absolutely ill-advised to increase people's electricity bills.
Exactly. But again, he said before the election, we will cap energy bills. We will not allow them to go up as they have done under the last government, which was a shambles. But then the first thing that happened was the energy bills were increased because the cap was raised about a month ago. And we're told that the cap will probably be raised again sometime before Christmas. So surely that was... all right, if you don't like the word lie, surely that was misleading.
Well, yes, it certainly was misleading, and I don't know whether people actually believe that any of this is going to happen. But what is encouraging...
But why does he keep saying it if it's not going to happen?
Well, because I suppose he wants to keep the sort of the young folk and the greenies on board. But, I mean, what's encouraging to me is that there is talk in Number 10 of sharpening Labour's missions, which I take as code for ditching stuff which is going to be unpopular and focusing on stuff that the government really needs to concentrate on, which is standards of living
and immigration
and the NHS.
Well, hang on.
I'm surprised Keir doesn't mention the NHS.
No, we're going to come to the NHS in a minute, but you just told me that he said on the way out to Baku that his two missions were, the two most important missions were the economy and immigration.
Yes, which sounds like a sensible move in the right direction to me, but contradicted by the fact that he was on a plane.
Well, it would be a move in the right...
Green conference to spout a load of nonsense.
Well, it would be a good move in the right direction if he hadn't then gone to Baku and started spouting all this rubbish about 81% of a decrease in carbon emissions, and then, with the economy in the state that it's in, decided to make it more difficult for companies to hire people because they have to pay so much national insurance to employ them. And so, you know, at the end of the day, it's all very well talking about growth in the economy, but what happened in the Rachel Reeves budget was that, you know, growth was kind of hampered by that.
Well, I don't agree with that, Mike, because taxes had to go up, and
yeah, but you can't stimulate growth. You can't stimulate growth, John, by putting taxes up on business, can you?
No, but whichever tax had gone up would have had a negative effect on growth in the short term. So that was just a price of Tory failure that had to be paid, I'm afraid.
Well, possibly so, but they could have made other choices as well. They didn't have to give loads and loads of money away to trade unions. Didn't have to spend a load of money.
Yes, they did actually. They didn't. They didn't have to give it to the train drivers, but they did have to give the public sector workers.
No,
as a group.
No, they made a choice.
They had to give them a decent pay rise because otherwise the public services were going to collapse.
They've already collapsed.
Be able to recruit and retain because public sector pay has fallen behind the private sector.
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. 22%. Come on, John. 22% for junior doctors. Absolute joke. And they're going to go back on strike
No, it's
in
catching
January
up.
Anyway.
Catching up with with pay that has fallen behind prices.
Well, I'd like you to point out where my 22% pay rises come from in the last 10 years, because I haven't had one. I don't know what private sector pay you're getting, but
because junior doctors' pay has fallen behind prices.
That's just what they say.
Over the years.
Anyway,
in a way that yours probably hasn't.
Let's talk about... well, it has, actually. I mean, my pay remained static for many, many years. Nobody came to me and said, oh, as a result of that, why don't you have a 22% pay rise? They didn't have...
Well, yeah, tragically, nobody did that to me either.
Yeah,
Mike.
funny that, isn't it? But we're both in the private sector, so all this myth about the private sector pay rises is absolute rubbish.
It's not a myth, Mike.
It is a myth.
You did this on Crime the other day. You mistook your own personal experience, which I sympathise with.
No, you don't.
For national...
Don't give me any of that rubbish.
Reliable national statistics about the picture in the whole...
No.
And the picture in the whole country is the pay in the private sector is going up.
Don't revisit your previous pain, John. It's not a good idea. Now, let's talk about Sue Gray. Apparently, the job was created for her, which she doesn't want. So now, apart from being seen with Lord Ali in the Dean Street townhouse, I'm not sure what she's up to. What is she up to?
Well, she's hoping to get a peerage, I should think. And I would have
Maybe
thought
she could get Archbishop Welby's.
Yeah, they could swap.
One in, one out.
Well, actually, the Church of England wants a woman archbishop, I should imagine. So perhaps she would qualify.
I thought Gary Lineker was going to get that job. And let's talk about as well. We've got Prime Minister's questions coming up later on today. Kemi Badenoch looking like she's got a bit of a bump in the old voting scenario. The Tories up, leading the Labour Party now, as I suppose opposition parties tend to do. But she did quite well first time out, and I suspect she'll give Keir Starmer a pretty good run for his money today.
She may well come a cropper, though, Mike. Now that you've set up expectations.
Oh, I don't think so. I'm all about expectations. I think Kemi Badenoch's good. I like her.
Yeah, no, I think she's good, and I thought she was good last week. Slightly too partisan sort of play. I mean, she accused Keir Starmer of student politics, but she was engaged in a bit of student politics herself. But she's got some fight to her. She's got a character. She comes across well, and I think she's going to give Keir Starmer a very hard time over the coming years.
I think she will. Absolutely. Good to see you, John. Thank you very much indeed. John Rentoul, Chief Political Commentator at The Independent.